Oh, Corona.
Hey guys, Josh here with Shift Lounge, and actually we're going to have Jason here as well. We were planning on doing this one sort of side by side, but obviously with the quarantine, that's not going to happen, so it just involved a lot more texting and sort of like FaceTime, so we'll see how this whole thing works. But what we wanted to talk about today is we wanted to rank the Fast and Furious movies. The original 8 ones, not including the Hobbs and Shaw or the upcoming 9th one. Reason for that being is a lot for, our generation, I guess the older millennials at this point. It was one of the first car movies that was really made that kind of for us and the whole like sort of tuner crowd. So I got my first MK4 Supra 2 or 3 months, I think, before the first Fast and Furious came out. And then Jason, he still has his, and it's a very nice big single turbo Supra, and he can tell you a little bit more about that one as well. Anyways, so starting with the rankings for me. Number 1 is going to be the original. I mean, it's what started it all. It's still a great movie. Whenever it's on TV, I'll watch it. No matter where it is. I can pretty much recite the whole thing at this point by memory. And it's just fantastic. Technical flaws and all. Number 2 for me is the 5th one. It was the first one with The Rock. It was a really well done. It was like a very needed injection of sort of new blood, I guess you could say. And it kind of helped sort of shift it to the whole, what it was sort of became more of like a heist film. 3rd one is number 7. It was Paul Walker's last. It was actually a very well done sort of like, send off for Paul. It was pretty sad. He's been big in the super community. I know a lot of super owners have met him, and everyone I know that has met him said he was a great guy. So that was obviously a very special one. 4th one is number 2. So to be fair, I actually have sort of a bias towards the original 3. So they're going to be probably a little bit higher ranking. They should, because they all are fairly awful movies. But just because it was like in the sort of like the time and the era. So number 2 for me was great because it was the first one that I got to watch with other super members and being part of the super community. So we all went to the theater together. It was great. We were like superstars because we all had Supras at the time. Number 5 would be number 6. It was the first one that was like, they just said, all right, no more real like tuner car things. We're just going to go full on heist movie. And it was a good sort of transition into that one. And then you got to see the old house. And they always, there's those shots on the internet of the old house with like, like the Nissan Maxima and, like the yellow skyline. And then the new one with the, Gallardo and the other cars. So it's a cool shot. Moving on down the line, 6 would be number 3. It was a pretty bad movie. Little Bow Wow is terrible. I forgot the actor's name, who does, I think it was like Lucas Black or something, who does the white guy. Also terrible. The Drift King guy, I can't see him in any of their movies now and not think of, hey man, you're the Drift King. It was pretty bad, but it was still kind of like sort of fit into like where the car scene was going with the whole drift thing. It was sort of dying out at that point, so it was it's amazing it kept going on. Number 7 for me is number 4. I would probably put this one last, but because it had the original cast in it, I gave it a lot higher marks. It was a real ridiculous movie. Gal Gadot's in it though, and she is super attractive, so also gained some points there. I think it was probably one of her first big sort of break, I'm thinking. But not a good movie, and the whole like off-road Charger in the end, and then having that I really hated that generation WRX as well. Those are not great choices for what they want to do at the end. And then 8th and finally is obviously number 8. It was weird. It was like the first one without Paul Walker. It was really, really ridiculous. It was kind of like the first, it almost felt like a Hobbs and Shaw movie. The original cast kind of didn't seem to be quite as important as the whole Statham and Rock sort of chemistry. I mean, I actually thought Hobbs and Shaw was a fairly decent movie, but I didn't really like number 8. So we'll see, number 9's been delayed a whole year now because of the coronavirus, so we'll see what becomes of it. But now I want to turn it over to Jason, and Jason, I know that I'm just, seeing the background of where you are in your car, it's way more badass than what I have behind me. Although, unless you like a lot of guns, then maybe. But anyways, Jason, take it away.
Thanks, Josh. Well, Fast and Furious. The Fast and Furious franchise is something that is a huge part of our lives, especially my generation and Josh's generation. It kind of changed the course of our, I guess, late teens, early 20s, you could say. It really, I made a lot of friends because of that franchise. In fact, Josh and I became friends indirectly because of the Fast and Furious franchise. So it's definitely one of those things that I really enjoy watching. I will watch every single one of them that come out, even if I know that I'm not gonna like it, I'm still gonna watch it. It's kind of like watching Star Wars or something like that. But if I were to kind of label them 1 to 8, the first one would most likely be Fast and Furious, the original movie. It definitely is. Like, anybody that says otherwise, you're just absolutely wrong. Okay, the movie started it all. The hero car is the Supra. The 2JZ. You got all these quotes. You live your life a quarter mile at a time. Thing. People can quote the entire movie. Things like, "Oh, it doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile." People still say that. So this movie really transformed a lot of people's lives after that. After that, it's like, oh shit, like, it doesn't matter if you're driving your mom's Toyota Corolla or Honda Civic EX. You throw on a freaking exhaust and you just rev it up. It's like the ricer. It spawned a huge market for aftermarket parts and rice parts and body kits and decals and lights, underglows, everything. It was a tits. That movie started it all. So number two and three are very close. I'm gonna have to give it to Tokyo Drift. Now, Josh is not gonna agree with me for sure. But I actually like Tokyo Drift because, despite the fact that I'm not a drift guy myself, I can barely drive straight. If I'm wide open throttle, I want to go straight, okay? I don't want to be like sideways. But Tokyo Drift still maintained that kind of racing culture feel. It kind of it took you to Tokyo in a foreign environment with an underground racing culture that was relatively foreign at the time, unless you're already into drifting already for a while. But it kind of spawned the drift scene in the United States, and that's what I liked about the Fast and Furious movies franchises is the fact that they originally were about street racing, and that's what kind of intrigued me about everything about the movie. It's about the racing. It was never about just action. Okay, so Tokyo Drift, despite the fact that there weren't all the stars that were in normal Fast and Furious, it was still a great racing and Fast and Furious movie, in my opinion. Number three was definitely going to have to be the second movie. It's pretty easy. It still retained that racing culture feel, street racing, and not only that, you had another Toyota Supra. You had the Nissan Skyline that jumped over the Supra in that one scene. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it yet. And you got that Asian chick with that pink Honda S2000. I mean, these were all the classic awesome cars at the time. And, you can't beat that. So, number 4, this is tough because despite the fact that I don't really like any of the other movies, it's hard to put them in order, but I know that number 4 has to be the 7th movie. Now, this is the movie where Paul Walker passed away while filming it. And the reason why it's number 4 is because of the ending. I think they did a really good job of kind of creating that montage of Paul Walker driving away in his white Supra. If you didn't know, Paul Walker did own a white Supra, and his brother shot the scene. And it was one of those things where if you watch that last ending part and you don't cry, there's something wrong with you. Like, you got to go get your head checked out, because I cry every single time. Number five. This is very controversial again. But I think number five, I would say the last Fast and Furious movie, Fast and Furious 8. The reason why is because it's just a non-stop action-packed movie. It's got a little bit of everything, lots of twists and turns in the plot. More importantly, it's still got that family vibe at the end where, you're still drinking your Coronas with family. Everything's about family, and that's part of the culture for the Fast and Furious franchise. Number six, Fast Five. Fast Five is a decent movie. It's kind of like the heist movie, right? It kind of started the heist things. It's got that Ocean's 11 feel, kind of bringing everybody together to work on a single ultimate goal. All the stars came together and they started having a role in the franchise. So I think it was handled fairly well, and it's not bad. So what number are we on? 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, and 8. Those two spots is kind of like pretty much even, but I'll have to give 7 to the Fast and Furious 6. And I think the only reason why is because there was, at the end of the movie, they did the family thing. They got together and had a meal as a family in the old house with Corona, and also there's a Lamborghini parked out front. You know how much I love Lamborghinis. And number eight we got last is the fourth movie. The fourth movie is number 8 for me and dead last because it's the movie that I hated because it changed the direction of the franchise. It used to be about racing and racing culture and underground racing and girls and parties and more racing and nitrous. And then it started becoming just like an action film, like just a whole bunch of action mindlessly, no hero cars, but an action movie having to do with random cars. It's like if I wanted to watch Triple X, I would go watch that, but I want to watch Fast and Furious. Give me my racing, give me my cars. So I really didn't like that movie because it kind of branched the franchise out into that kind of more of an action sequence than a racing heritage or racing roots kind of feel. So, yep. It's going to be pretty interesting to see what the next Fast and Furious is. Fast and Furious 9. It was supposed to come out, I don't know, today, tomorrow, but due to the recent pandemic, it's been postponed for a year. And hopefully they bring back some racing.
Number 3 over number 2? That is a terrible take. I don't know a single person who actually really, really liked number 3. I mean, I do kind of get what you're saying about it did have some of the actual racing versus, number 2 and all the subsequent ones being kind of more about, just heist type sort of movies. But good God, that was terrible. And how can you not really? I know you said you kind of ranked them. You don't really like the other ones. Like the ones with The Rock are fantastic. They're way better. I will say it this way: the Fast and the Furious would have died at number 5 if they made 5 without The Rock. It would have died right there. Also, bringing me to this, how can you take number 8 over number 5? Number 8, I think, was one of the worst ones. I mean, it didn't have Paul Walker. It was just all, heist stuff, and it had a Lamborghini, but it wasn't your Lamborghini. It had, although I do like the LP640. So, all right, we'll give it that one. But other than that, I appreciate Jason. It's kind of weird, again, doing it, back and forth like this rather than sitting next to each other, but, hey, wouldn't want to violate the shelter-in-place orders in place right now. So, I appreciate it, guys. I know Jason appreciates it, so thank you, and we will see you next time.